Vault 106 has to be one of my favorite places in all of Fallout. It has a lot of nostalgic value for me. I remember the first time I ventured into this vault, and I was scared shitless. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Vault Delver. This is a series in which we explore the various vaults of Fallout, and go into the lore and the layout and other hidden secrets of such vaults. This is pretty similar to my Unexplored Mojave or Unexplored Capital Wasteland series, if you've seen those. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into Vault 106, perhaps one of the scariest vaults in all the Fallout, at least in my opinion.
Play out your own ideas for how to create the perfect conditions for humanity, whatever you want to do.
We can pump psychotropic drugs into the air supply.
Despite how scary this vault is, it is located very close to Vault 101, where you begin your journey in Fallout 3, so it's very easy to stumble across. But as soon as you enter, you will notice that this vault is very different from Vault 101, your home. We are greeted with a scene of chaos. Blood is splattered on the floor, and there's various trash cans and furniture sprung about. And as we make our way further into the vault, we can see two vents spraying something into the vault. Who knows what that chemical is? As we make our way further, this vault has clearly been in a state of disrepair for a long time, and we can find more blood on the floor. As we make our way to the next chamber, we find a very easy locked door. We can go through, and we can find a pretty haunting scene. This is the old security office. Inside is two skeletons, one behind a desk with a pistol, and another one in the corner. They appeared to be using the table as some kind of defense. Then we can find this terminal, which must be hacked. After hacking the terminal, we can find a very interesting message which reads, "To Vault Security, if any of our residents notice any unusual odor or faint taste to the air, please assure them that everything is okay. There was a slight irregularity in our filtration system, but nothing to cause alarm. The systems have already been corrected and are 100% functional again. If you notice anyone acting out in a strange manner, please report the disturbance immediately, so medical assistance can be sent. Vault 106, Overseer." But besides that rather ominous note from the Overseer, there's not much of interest inside of the security office. As we continue to delve further into the vault, we come to an intersection. We can go right or left. So at first we decide to go left, and we get our first sign that something is amiss in this vault. Our eyes turn a blue hazy color, and that is quite weird. Definitely not supposed to be happening, but something is amiss. Clearly. We come into this room with all kinds of science and lab and computer equipment, and we can see a cave outside of the windows, but besides that, there's not much of interest. Listening to the sounds of the abandoned vault sends shivers down my spine. However, we quickly find out that it is not abandoned. We find some insane survivors in the generator room. 2 of them. Who knows how long they've been down here, but most likely they are not from the original vault dwellers. Most likely they were raiders or some kind of survivors out in the wasteland who were unlucky enough to find themselves in this vault. Inside of the generator room, there is not a whole lot of interest. We can also find an old closet with various lockers, but again, nothing much of interest inside of it. As we go back the way we came and go down the right side this time, we find another insane survivor. This time we lure him back into an earlier room and kill him next to his comrade. After that, we make our way back where we came down the right side, and we find some blood on the floor that appears to be very old. And on the left, we can find an old laboratory and projector what appears to be some kind of office. Across from this, we can find more laboratory equipment and a coffee machine. On the desk, we can find a note, and this torn out journal entry reads, "For some reason, today the air is different. I can't quite place it, but the air tastes a little blue, I guess? As weird as that sounds, the air tastes blue. Blue like my suit. That kind of rhymes. Weird. Weird beard. Heh. I always wanted to be a beatnik, but the pants were too tight." As we continue further into the vault, we find a very strange sight. We see what appears to have been our father, perhaps someone from Vault 101. But that's not right. We're in Vault 106. We find a destroyed office room with furniture all thrown about, but not much of interest in here. We move across the hallway to find a smaller office. Then, on our left, we can find another door that leads to just another small office space. Who knows what kind of research or weird things were going on in this vault? Clearly, all of the vaults had strange things going on. And after that episode, we continue further into the vault living quarters. Immediately, we are greeted by two insane survivors, but a few sawed-off shotgun shots to the face renders them both dead. Thankfully, the enemies within the vault are not very strong, no matter how scary they might appear. And as we search the upper floor of the living quarters, we will find this old classroom or research room, something like that, and there's a pile of boxes on the desk. If we pick up and remove all of the boxes, the bottom box contains a copy of Nikola Tesla and You. So pretty darn good, and something you definitely want to pick up in the vault. As we continue along the upper levels of the living quarters, we will find this long hallway in the back corner of the upper area, which will lead to this large, maybe research room with windows peering out into the outer cave. Inside, we'll find a lone insane survivor who we can easily kill since he's only wielding a sledgehammer. And in the back of this room, we can find perhaps the most prized treasure within Vault 106, the science bobblehead. So make sure you pick it up for a permanent increase of +10 to your science skill. An incredible find, to say the least. After this, we make our way towards the Overseer's office. However, it is unfortunately behind a hard lock, which at this point in the game, we are unable to access. But there is a really weird setup of furniture and desk, and a note on a nearby table. The note is titled Scribbles, which reads, "Scribbly, bibbly, hoodily hoo, wing wang, brick-a-bang, choo-choo-choo. Upside popsicle tastes like blue. Ghosts in the hall go boo, boo, boo." Whoever wrote this was clearly not in the right mind. It sounds like a very bad nursery rhyme. As we make our way to the lower level, we will find several shelves with some useful loot. We can find a footlocker with alcohol in it, along with some medical kits that contain various medical supplies, and along with some frag mine and frag grenade boxes that contain explosive ordnance that can continue to help us throughout our journey with these crazed vault survivors. And on the bottom floor of the living quarters, we can find this old storage room perhaps, and there's a bunch of junk on this shelf, such as buff out, buckets, old cleaners from the pre-war era, old food from the pre-war era, and whatever you have. And then something very weird happens. As we enter the next part of the vault, we begin to hallucinate. Things flash back to the pre-war era. However, when we go back, the doors remain closed, and we just find chaos inside of these rooms. Furniture strung about, making no sense. What is going on? And as we continue our journey further into the vault, we will encounter more insane survivors. Who knows how long these poor souls have been down here. As we are forced to kill them, we can take some solace in hoping that we are doing an act of kindness by putting them out of their misery. But who knows what they are truly thinking at this point. As we delve further into the vault, we too begin to succumb to the effects of the psychoactive drugs present in the air. Here we see perhaps our old childhood friend, Amata. But obviously that is not real. She is in Vault 101, and we are in Vault 106. After this, we find a shopping cart and an intersection. First, we dive into the male dormitory. Inside of this room, we find a note titled, "Feel the love, man." This note reads, "Oh man, I just had enough to get my thoughts on paper, man. Otherwise, the cat in my head forgets, man. The sky is as blue as it used to be. I'm so happy to be here. And my roomies are flailing around in the love mist. I can't remember what I was doing before, but man, is it great here now. I never thought about it like this before. But the walls just need somebody to love too, man." Clearly, whoever wrote this is fully under the effects of this psychoactive drugs within Vault 106. That poor soul. As we explore the rest of the male dormitory, we just find chaos. Furniture thrown about. Who knows what happened in here. As we make our way to the female dormitory, we find another insane survivor in this area. Interestingly enough, there are no female insane survivors insofar. As we look around the dormitory, we don't find a whole lot different from the male dormitory, just furniture's thrown about. As we attempt to leave, we find an average locked door and a note before that door. The note, which is titled "To Anyone Who Gets This," reads, "I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, everyone started acting strange. The overseer told us to lock ourselves into our room and wait until security gets the riff-raff under control, so that's what I'm doing. I managed to catch the security chief on his way past, and apparently the weirdos are so out of their head, they can't read. So if you're not affected, say the word Fanzini, and I'll let you in." After this, we can pick our way into the average locked room, where we find some blood about and 2 skeletons in the bed. Who knows what terrible events played out within this room. There's also a locked safe, a small child skeleton on this small bed as well. Some very dark things indeed. As we move on further into the vault, we will find a really weird book standing upright, but we knock it over. Who knows why that's there? Perhaps as some kind of warning system. From down the hallway, we hear a radio, Enclave radio, and to our left we have what appears to be some kind of old research room, perhaps for x-rays or something like that. Then we make our way down this staircase, and we just are greeted with a long hallway, and what appears to be old blood on the floor. There's a shopping cart, and we enter what appears to be some kind of data storage or computer room, and, who would be surprised, there is a crazed survivor in here. This survivor was armed with a sword, making him quite dangerous. After killing him, we made our way to the back of this room, and we find an overturned server or something like that, and on top is a copy of Tumblers Today next to 2 empty milk bottles. Pretty good find. After that, exiting the room, we were confronted by an insane survivor. After a bit of a fight, he decided to run away, and he had some friends. Here we encountered quite a lot of insane survivors, and what ensued was a somewhat difficult fight, considering I was a low level and I only had this 10mm to defend myself. So I kind of used the tactic of running backwards away from the 3 men as one of them began to cower again. These guys were very funny in their willingness to fight, and hopefully we're doing them a favor and putting them out of their misery. Inside of this bedroom, we can find where the men were sleeping, next to a radio tuned to the Enclave radio station. There's also a medical kit, and these beds are not organized in any logical way. After that, we can delve deeper into the vault, and eventually we come into this old maintenance room with piping and perhaps a generator, and then we move further into the vault. The next room is actually just an enclosed area, and we have an interesting message from the Overseer, which reads, "Today at 15:30, we are initiating control sequence 46-2A. We are unsure of the full effects of the gas release, so we request that anyone receiving this message head to their designated locations as noted in your C11 form. The assigned locations were chosen for cover and safety they provide, so do not vacate them unless dire circumstances arise. Remember to handle anyone acting abnormally according to the guidelines provided, and most importantly, immediately call for medical assistance. We thank you for assisting during this brief test and assure you that the control is non-lethal and will be cleared from the air before 1600. The Overseer." And here we have one of the most damning terminals yet, because the Overseer and his security detail obviously knew what they were doing, poisoning the residents of this vault with some kind of drug. As we exit the security office, we were greeted by another insane survivor as we make our way back through the vault. As we go further back, eventually we come to this small kind of surgical room, perhaps with all kinds of medical equipment, and then we come to a large staircase that winds down to the bottom of the vault.
Come on, boys! Fresh meat! It's go time!
Hey! Where?
And now we are fully under the effects of the psychoactive drug that is in the air. As we began our fight against the survivor, we began to hallucinate. We began to see Butch and the tunnel snakes from Vault 101, and they just wouldn't disappear. Killing them will result in a loss of karma. While they are not real, they are real in our mind. But the hallucinations just will not stop. We begin to see that lovely blue that so many other vault survivors saw. We desperately search for the survivor, as he is pretty difficult to kill. I'm using the best weapon I had available at this time, and a big fight ensued against the survivor. But it was difficult. As I hallucinated, he became invisible, and it was quite the fight. But eventually, he surrendered, and it was over. After this, we can head to the very back of the vault in this cave, where we can find a mini nuke and various ammunition and explosives. Now, it appears that the vault dwellers were trying to escape. Several skeletons are at the back of this cave, and we're presented with an extremely haunting scene as desperate survivors tried to escape, but ultimately met their end. Also, if you sneak up on the survivor, you can find him in conversation with an insane survivor, and they're talking about how they will escape, trying the same exact way as these other poor souls. Who knows who these people once were, but they were clearly just unlucky souls who wandered into hell itself. After that, we began to make our way outside of Vault 106 to escape this hell. But there is one last thing we want to check out before we leave for good. In the bottom of the vault, we grabbed the master key, which will grant us access to the Overseer's office. We hallucinate as we enter, and we can see the Vault 101 Overseer in our visions, and we find a room in chaos. But thankfully, the Overseer's terminal is still operational, but we'll have to hack it to get access. And on the Overseer's terminal, we find something titled Urgent Preparations Report. The ventilation system has been checked, and the required security and medical protocols have been initiated as per instruction in preparation for the release of the control. The following systems have been brought online, and various shafts. The following systems have been disconnected, and 2 shafts. The following security precautions have also been completed. Security Protocol 5146A, Camera Protocol 52 Overseer, Medical Protocol 98 Med Alert. I have overseen all preliminary tests and can assuredly say we are ready and prepared for the worst. And with that, well, we can see that the Overseer was definitely complicit in the crimes that happened in this vault. Besides that, there's not a whole lot of interest in the Overseer's office, besides this first aid box, and we can finally make our way out of the vault. And one thing that's worth mentioning is if you access the terminals while hallucinating, you will be greeted with some pretty funny and interesting messages on the terminals. These can only be viewed while you're hallucinating, so you know it's good to see because you can only view them for a very short period of time. And after this, we can finally exit the vault. We've pretty much cleared it and done everything that there is to do. Now, replaying Fallout 3 as an adult, this vault is not as scary as I remembered it, but definitely as a young teenager, it was very terrifying, at least for me. Now, this vault is still very haunting. As part of the experiment within, if we couldn't tell, psychoactive drugs were released into the air filtration system 10 days after the doors were sealed. And most of the survivors inside of the vault went insane. Now, the Overseer and his security knew what they were doing. They were complicit in the experiments. And they told or lied to the vault dwellers that everything was fine. Obviously, a lot of the vault dwellers became desperate and tried to escape at the very back of the vault. And we have a very terrible and haunting scene there. This is one of the darkest vaults in all of Fallout, in my opinion, as it continues to claim victims of the Wasteland long after the Great War. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Vault Delver. Now this is a series I really want to develop more. This is only the second episode. The vault before this was Vault 22, which is in Fallout New Vegas. And I have a lot of fun making these videos, but it requires a lot more time and more effort to put them together, which is why it's a bit slower to make them. Either way, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something about Vault 106, or you now have the courage to delve into it yourself. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any recommendations or ideas for a future video, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time.